love that as soon as I have the time and the energy to film, the people who do our landscaping are like, now is the time. Today is the day. Here is the place. And fuck you. Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel, Reads with Rachel, where I read and review books, sometimes really bad books, as I did 4 months ago with this. Yikes. So here we are, part 2, welcome to the sequel, or as someone on my Instagram called it, JM Butternut, the sequel, or part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Thank you, Instagram commenter. If you have not seen part 1, it's linked in the first thing in the description box down below. I recommend you go watch it just in case there's anything relative that you may have missed. So why are we here? A couple of reasons. As I said in the last video, she did some stuff that made people upset and people went and 1-starred her book en masse. And something I do here on this channel is when I find out that people are 1-starring en masse, I'm like, this is an opportunity for me to find out if this book actually deserves 1 stars, and then I review them. Some people want to say that's not why I reviewed it, but that absolutely is. The most recent example of me doing this was Lauren Huff's book, Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing, and the hardest thing for Lauren in writing a book was to make a point. It was not great. Did it deserve 1 stars? In my opinion, no, but it wasn't above a 2.5. So I like to see if books that get review bombed, 1-star bombed on Goodreads, deserve the 1 stars. That's one of the reasons I do this. I also like the ad revenue that I get from doing these videos, so that's another reason. But also I'm in kind of a weird reading and filming slump, so I thought that reading something that I knew was going to be stupid based on its predecessor, maybe that would help me out. It didn't. I'm still kind of in a reading and filming slump. But why JM Bottlebrush? Why her again? Why her book? Well, all of her books got 1 star, so they're all up for the opportunity to, you know, be reviewed by me to find out if they deserve it. But why her now? Especially after the last she found my video like 5 days later and then got like upsetty spaghetti about it. So the answer to why, because one day I saw that my analytics were like, and I'm like, why? Why is this happening? And I noticed that I was getting notification after notification after notification from Goodreads saying people were liking my Seeker of Time review on Goodreads, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it turned out that a bookstagrammer had said something stupid, and I'll see if I can find screenshots, and JM Beetroot came to their defense, and then she made a bunch of reels. I'll play.
I like it. It's really good. Honestly, I don't care if it's good. I only care if it's diverse. It's diverse. How would you know? You're a white author. White authors know nothing about diversity. Oh. Is it inclusive? Yeah. Tell me you have trans characters or pansexual characters somewhere in here. I'm straight. I didn't feel comfortable writing about characters that... Well, I don't feel comfortable with your pronoun usage. What pronoun? He. But the character is a man. Are you sure about that? Did you ask your character? Why is the villain's skin darker than the protagonist? He's a shapeshifter. His fur happens to be black and brown. Sorry, I can't publish a racist book. So you love everyone? Yes, unless they're white and heterosexual. But you're white and heterosexual. I know. So you hate yourself? Maybe a little. Hating others because of their skin color isn't very nice. Says the oppressor. Why am I the oppressor? Because critical race theory told me so. So you're disregarding what Martin Luther King Jr. marched for? Stop gaslighting me! You seem very upset. How about a cup of tea to calm your nerves? I guess. Do you like it? Yeah, it's actually really good. Did you purchase it from a shop owned by a person of color? Not a clue.
So all of this behavior from her caused an uptick in people finding my video and it gaining like 2,000 more views than it had previously, and I was asked if I would do the sequel and I was like, why not? This book got review bombed as well on Goodreads, so sure, let's find out if it deserves 1 star. But before I review it, I want to quickly touch on something. I'm gonna hold it together. I did read the book, I read the whole thing, and it was objectively bad. It was not good. I'm not surprised. I was hopeful once again that maybe she had taken a class, learned from some of her previous mistakes, but unfortunately that while I will say that there were, and we'll talk about them, there were some things that I felt she did just like a smidge better, overall she really struggles with plot, dialogue, character development, so it was not good. And I found myself face palming over and over and over. So at one point I'm like remembering very suddenly that after she found my video last time and got upsetty spaghetti, she did a live show like right after and talked about me and my video, which was hilarious. Because I have a very small channel, so like her being upset about little old me was like, this is hilarious. She says in the live show, you know what, I'll see if I can find the clip and I'll play it.
Let me tell you a little update. So I got wind yesterday that there was a booktuber, who did a review on my book. Here's the thing, my book has been ripped before. I don't care. You guys know how I feel about my first book. I've talked about all the things I would have changed, done differently. It was a debut novel, but it's also won some literary awards, so it can't be that bad. Anyway, I don't care. I am not the author that's gonna go after a reviewer. Okay, that's dumb. Like, why would you do that? I don't have enough time to do that. But someone said, oh, you gotta see this video. So I was like, okay. But it's also won some literary awards, so it can't be that bad. But it's also won some literary awards, so it can't be that bad.
So the piece that I want to talk about here is the fact that she said that it won literary awards. And my question is, after reading two of her books, how? And listen, I am able to divorce two things: a person's behavior and the content of their book, the content and the quality of their book, right? I'm able to divorce these two things. I do this regularly as a reviewer. A big example I can think of is I think that J. Kristoff is kind of an icky person. However, I cannot say honestly Nevernight and God's Grave are badly written books, because I don't think that. I think they are well written books. Dark Dawn is a different story. I digress. So I can divorce author behavior from content of book. And I made all the critiques that I made about her first book and the one I'm about to review in good faith. So this brought me to the question, how? How did this happen? How did this possibly win literary awards? Because I know that it's badly written. I'm not trying to be mean here. It just is. It's not of good quality. So I got curious enough, which I don't normally do as far as literary awards, to find out. And here's what I found. The answer to how, it depends on what you consider valid literary awards. And I want to preface this by saying that I'm not a person who is swayed at all by literary awards or really cares about them. Not to say that they're a bad thing. I just don't have any like great I don't feel like drawn to books that have that. It just has no appeal for me. If that's how you choose books, that's great. I'm not saying anything derogatory. It's just not how I don't find any appeal in that. As a book consumer, I'm more likely to pick up a book that has a very eye-catching cover. But if there's an award seal on it or a blurb from another author, I don't care about those things. They don't work on me personally in terms of marketing, and it's because I have no way of knowing if those things actually translate to quality of book. And when I talk about quality of book, I'm talking about it being well written, the plot making sense, the plot having a normal plot arc and being well structured, having unique characters with complex relationships with other characters that I find captivating to watch, having well explored themes, and this is a big one for me personally, having descriptions of things that I feel put to words thoughts or feelings that I'd never been able to quite articulate before and found to be profound. So I don't personally care about awards and blurbs as a reader because those are the things that appeal to me in books. So I would have to hear it from another reader whose reviews I respect, or from somebody who has similar taste as me in order to find out if that book was right for me. Getting a blurb from an author, I don't know what an author's reading tastes are, and getting an award seal, I don't know what the criteria is for that award seal, so I don't care. So normally when books win like prolific awards, right, like the US National Book Award, there are rules. It has to be published within a certain year, like a certain time frame. The publisher has to be the one to submit it. It has to be a book that was published within like a 1 year, like the previous year. It can't be published like 5 or 15 years ago. It has to be an actually published book, not like an unfinished manuscript. And there's criteria for like the judges, right? So the judges are usually a panel of 5 and they have expertise in the category that they are judging. And judges aren't just random, they're nominated by like finalists and past book award winners. And the panel changes every single year. Versus, here is one of the awards that JM Butternut won. So let me show you their website. This entire website is written as though the two main intentions of this are selling awards to authors so they can use these awards as a marketing tool and using that money for some sort of charity involving pillows. They have 17 judges total, but only 2 per category. No note on whether they have expertise in these categories. No note on whether the panel changes every year. You can submit any book you've written, no matter the publishing date. In fact, it doesn't even have to be published at all. It can be an unfinished manuscript, and they encourage you to submit your book to multiple categories to up your chance of winning, which you have to pay for each category. And judging by their website, it appears that JM Butternut went with their deluxe package, where if you pay extra for your book to be judged in 5 extra literary categories for $33 per entry on top of the regular $55 entry fee, since she got her 30-minute interview, that means she spent somewhere around at least $190 to win an award that I've never heard of before, and just like every other award, is meaningless to me. Meanwhile, her books are still badly written, at least 2 out of the 3. I haven't read the 3rd one. I don't usually trust awards anyways, but I definitely don't trust the ones that JM Beetlejuice paid almost $200 to win. Especially considering the books that won at the same time as hers are titles such as this. Note to authors, if you are paying hundreds of dollars for awards as an obvious marketing tactic, but your book is still shit, maybe take that money and invest in, I don't know, Skillshare or local community colleges writing courses. Alright, let's actually talk about this book. I'm not saying that I got it on Z Library, but I'm not saying that. Alright, so first and foremost, it says, ratings are not required for books. We know. Stop yelling. I do appreciate the warning being there. Adult language. As if teenagers aren't saying fuck all the time. So the thing about the graphic scenes is she's absolutely right. Her scenes, so the last book was like very G-rated in my opinion, and that's fine. And this book is like a complete juxtaposition. This book has like very graphic scenes of like necks being sawed into and like tendons and blood, and I was like, whoa, this is the opposite side of the spectrum from where we were in the first book. Holy moly. This book also came with a map where Arunix is showed to look like an arrowhead and is incredibly small. Once again, just like the last book, she starts off where she like really tries to have beautiful prose. First sentence is, the quiet peacefulness between consciousness and sleep was the last thing I felt before my eyes found Jack's. It's stupid. It just sounds stupid. So unnecessary. Just say normal things. Another thing I had an issue with in the last book was her constant use of vibrating lips, which is that? I still don't know what she's talking about. She did cut that out in this book, however, other things were vibrating. I didn't mean that to sound sexual, but yeah, here we are. So like in like chapter 1 alone, she says, I squeezed my vibrating hands into fists, the heat surging through me, and like, you know, she's vibrating, her brother's vibrating, yada yada. It's the same use of like weird words that I don't know exactly what she's, just say shaking. Just say shaking, because vibrating makes it sound like there is something electric going on, and there's not. Once again, Jax says stuff that just sounds stupid, and I thought maybe that like she was going to make the entirety of Arunix talk weirdly, but it's just Jax, so I don't know. He says stuff like, nothing is certain until you experience it to be true. I had a strong intuition that I could return to Arunix with you both. She didn't really sort out how her magic worked, so she's just like playing it off like, it's Jax's intuition, but also Jax just says weird shit, so I can't even focus on the magic system being underdeveloped because he's always saying things in a weird way. Why is it that every time I try to film, somebody's always doing the yard? I just want to move so badly. I had a strong intuition. I don't feel like that's correct, because I think you say things like I had a strong feeling or I had a strong feeling of intuition. I don't think the word intuition works like that. It just sounds very weird to me. But again, this is Jax, and like that's how she decided to make him talk for some weird reason. I don't know. Are you done? Another thing I had an issue with was her use of piercing blue eyes. She did cut that down, as well as the vibrating lips. So I appreciate that. At least she did that. However, it was substituted by more cringy shit, so she just can't write descriptions for shit. And her dialogue is also bad, so it's just bad. Plot-wise, which technically there is none, all that happened in the last book was her finding out that she has a twin brother, and it's the guy that she had like a crush on, and he had a crush on her too. And then this other guy showing up and being like, hey, you guys are related and you're aliens and you're from this planet where there's an evil dictator. He's like, I want to take you with me back to the planet to defeat him. That's literally it. That's all that happened. Jax is a seeker, and seekers were like basically eradicated, and then he comes to Earth to find them, and he was originally the person that took them to Earth. And I really hope you watch the other video. So at the end, they make this elaborate plan to tell their parents, their own parents, that they had joined different branches of the military, and then they jump to Arunix. End of book. So they get to Arunix. Immediately they are come upon by collectors, which are Zenith, the bad guy, basically like his police force. So Jax runs away, and Alara's like, we have to go after him, even though he explicitly said don't do that. But you know, she's just like a dumb bitch the whole book. So on Arunix, there's the dictator Zenith. He has a police force called Collectors, and he has an inner circle of collectors, which are like the ultimate collectors. So Jax, this is also stupid. I don't even know where to begin. Then they get into an argument because she's like, wait, we came here and you don't have a plan? And he's like, maybe you should have asked about the details before you left Earth. Yeah, she should have, but also like this should have been the whole conversation. It should have been the whole, that's why I'm saying like the last book was basically like a whole unnecessary prologue. It just, this is so stupid. Why did neither of you talk about what you were going to, this is so stupid. Stupid. Again, he says, I have a strong intuition. When this is over, I'll have the power to take you back to Earth. So now his powers don't work. He can't take them back to Earth. I don't know. Again, this is just like, the way that JM decided to write this was like, you have to have good intentions in order to be able to teleport, essentially. Okay. So the land of Arunix is different than Earth, and Jax, he talked about this in the last book. He said things like there's no coffee on Arunix, and it's basically like living in the Dark Ages, so there's no technology. Also, the land has weird shit on it, so the water has a special quality. It could clean and sanitize any article of clothing, including the human body. So listen to that sentence. It could clean and sanitize any article of clothing, including the human body. The human body is an article of clothing? Come on, Jennifer. It's bad. It's just badly written. Like, an editor would have picked up on all of this. But also the difference is that there are no insects on Arunix, not a single insect, and there's barely any birds. And that leads you to wonder, like, how are their crops getting fertilized? They don't have any technology and they have no insects. I don't get it. Also, there's these things called clear stones, which I thought would be like plot relevant. They're not. Of course they're not. I should have known better. So clear stones are these clear, they're like these white stones that when you like shave off a part of it, it kind of looks clear, and then you rub it between your fingers and it disappears. And I'm like, what was the point? So between the gray water that cleans any article of clothing, including the human body, and no insects, so who knows how their crops are getting fertilized, but also the clear stones that disappear when you rub them, none of this was plot relevant. It was just to make a weird world. Also, the sky is green, but the water is gray. Okay. Another thing that just does not make any fucking sense is how are these people speaking not just English, but 21st century American English? The dialect is very specifically American English. How? When they don't even know what galaxy Arunix is in, and Jax is the only seeker. How is that possible? How? I hate it. It's just so bad. It's just so badly written. You get to chapter 5, literally nothing has happened. They're still in hiding, talking about what plan is not, because there is no plan. Then Jax says that he specifically says they need to go visit town, and so they all go visit town. Visit being the key word here. Then they get to town, and there's like a really pretty lady, and she says her shapely breasts bounced up and down with each step, and her golden eyes shimmered in the bright sunlight. I was like, did a man write this? Who says shapely breasts? Ah, I don't like it. As a person with mom boobs, I guess maybe I'm just mad that my boobs are like bags of soup at this point. I'm just kidding. Cut that out. So then Jax goes off to do some stuff, and Cyrus and Alara are supposed to stay put. They don't, because they never listen, and they wander off, and Cyrus is talking to some vendor. They're at like an outdoor market, and the vendor is giving him a weird look, and Jax runs up and he's like, what the fuck is going on? And Cyrus says, the guy was just asking me what village I was from, and I said me and my sister are just visiting. And Jax flips the fuck out and says he told that man that he was just visiting with his sister. And so they're like being silent because they're confused as fuck. Same here. He says Arunix doesn't have visitors. Everyone lives in one of the 4 villages, north, south, east, or west. But key point here, seekers are the only people who use the term visit. Now I can let it go that Jax said we have to go visit town because he is a seeker, right? But then the rest of the fucking book, people from Arunix are using the term visit, even in the context of like, hey, come visit me later so we can, you know, bone. So she made this whole dramatic thing where it's like, oh, that particular word is only used by seekers, and then used it throughout the rest of the fucking book. Why? Consistency is important. It's oh my god, so bad. Then they're talking about knives, and knives are like outlawed unless they're like a butter knife. And he said Zenith is a conniving master at manipulation. When he first passed the ordinance about the knives, he lied, saying it was for everyone's safety. Zenith told the people that they should thank him for ridding the planet of such destructive and dangerous weapons. You know what's crazy? Everyone believed him. They actually bought his bullshit. And Cyrus looks at Alara, and in her head, by the way, the inner dialogue quotes, she did take them out, so that's good. Cyrus looks at her, and she looks back at him, and in her head is saying to him like, I know, bro. This gets crazier by the minute. The use of sis and bro between the two of them is so cringy and so unnecessary. But this is a thing she does a lot, where she refers to a person as sis or bro or the Lunan or the Solon, which Lunans are people that were born at night in Arunix, and Solons are people that were born in the daytime. So they have features. They have certain features depending on which one they are, and certain powers depending on which ones they are. All of them are stupid. But the problem is like, it's constant. I looked at the Lunan. I talked to the Lunan. The Lunan said. The Solon said. The Solon went. The Lunan gave. It's constant. It is constant. You're like constantly being like attacked by these words. It's so annoying. What happened to the knives the collectors confiscated? They were added to Zenith's arsenal. When the ordinance passed, word spread like wildfire to the men running the black market. They got their hands on a few before the collectors snatched up the rest. So basically, this sounds like it's about gun control. And that, I think, adds up to, you know, Bucklebeak's beliefs. I'm not saying that I'm like anti-gun. There's literally a gun in the room that it's just, it sounds like she's trying to make a political comment on, you know, common sense gun laws. So then they find out that Alara, if she's touching her brother and feeling certain emotions, she can make her hands be hot enough to burn people. Alara, not only do you share your brother's Solon traits when in proximity, but you can absorb his power when physically connected. So, do the two of you realize that together, the two of you could take down any collector, maybe even Zenith? Relief washed over me as I glanced at Cyrus. He gave me a warm smile, followed by a wink. I don't understand why relief, the feeling that washed over her, I would have been confused. How? How is it that her having the power to make her hands super hot would be able to defeat Zenith? This is just bad writing. It's just bad. Like, you have to explain. And in the end, I think that the answer to that was Zenith is special because he was born during an eclipse. Cyrus and Alara are also special, so if the people see that they're special, then they could overthrow Zenith, which is stupid. So then they're like, okay, if she can absorb his hot power, Maybe he can absorb her powers the other way around. And he says, we should try it tonight. Hold hands and see what happens. Maybe we can run at the speed of sound or jump like Spider-Man. She didn't hyphenate Spider-Man. Disrespect. I snorted. The hilarious image of us racing through the woods flashed in my mind. I wasn't even trying to be funny, Cyrus said. I know. I just got this visual of us chasing after each other in a giant blur. Like vampires? Exactly. Too bad we don't sparkle. I do. In here. The Solon roared with laughter. We could write a comedy. I waved my hand like a banner through the air. Conversations with Alara and Cyrus. As a person who has been subjected to conversations with Alara and Cyrus, you could not write a comedy. The author of this cannot write at all. Also, no, in case you were wondering, pop culture references did not stop, and here we have a Twilight reference and a Spider-Man reference, but the Twilight reference is hilarious because this feels like an offshoot of a bad Twilight fanfiction. Oh god, I'm allergic to bad writing. I am now 7 chapters into this book and nothing has happened. There's been no new characters introduced. There has been no actual plot development. It's just bad. 7 chapters. Then she says then Jax tells her, Alara, this power making your hands all hot and burning people will give you a huge advantage over the collectors. This little trick could save your life. So it's not really about defeating Zenith then, it's about having an advantage over the collectors. And there's still no plan. There's no plan, but you want to use the power to go up against this is just bad. Like, how is there no plan? Because JM didn't want to write one. This is stupid. So he tries to get Alara to make this, hot hands power work, and it's just not working for them. They can't seem to get it down. This trick won't help us if you only repeat it when experiencing pain. We can't waste time trying to replicate it. I need to focus on your weapons training. I won't let you risk your lives with uncertainty. Sir, that's been the whole series so far, is uncertainty, and you literally going to a different planet where you could be just like murdered and you have no plan. You didn't make a plan before you got there? You didn't even inform them or train them before? Do weapons training before? It's so stupid. This is just so poorly structured. It doesn't make any sense. So then we finally get introduced to a new character, Idalia, who is part of basically sort of like the, resistance in secret. She's sort of Jax's ex-girlfriend, present girlfriend kind of. They go to the bar/inn that she owns, and she sees that Jax is extremely happy to see Idalia, that Idalia is insanely pretty, is wildly beautiful, and her heart sinks. And immediately the first character we introduce is a woman who Alara is jealous of. Now I will say that this did get better than in book 1, where every single woman who Alara met was somebody that she was competing with or having a bad interaction with. And that sucked. She literally has no friends. And she would get jealous about women interacting with Jax when she barely knew Jax. It's weird. It was just weird shit. So she is jealous immediately, and it goes on for pages and pages and pages. And then she gets over it, and eventually she apologizes. So at least there's that. I just feel like it was unnecessary to begin with. We didn't need it in the first book, and we don't need it now. I don't need that kind of character development. I wish that she had not had that bad character to begin with, and we could have seen her develop in a different way, a more interesting way than just basic stupid bitchy jealousy. I hate it. It would have been nice to give her one girlfriend just right off the bat. It's not that every part of this is bad ideas, it's that it all needed to be restructured, and really what she needs is a good editor and better beta readers. In fact, she probably should have used that $200 that she paid for fake awards and gotten some quality beta readers. Sensitivity readers rather. But the entire time we're experiencing this, until the time that Alara finally realizes she's being a stupid, annoying pain in the ass to everybody because she's jealous, is just miserable. It's miserable because it's pages and pages of her being an asshole. It's just, it doesn't make any sense because Jax and Alara are nothing to each other. They're nothing to each other. They haven't expressed any feelings. There's been nothing. And so she talks to her brother Cyrus about it, and she's like, oh, he's into Idalia, so he couldn't be into me, essentially. And Cyrus says, Alara, you can care for more than one person. She says, I don't believe that. He says, It's true. I started having feelings for you while I was dating Hillary. So unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. I don't need to know that. And she even says, I've never acted like the crazy jealous girl who throws shoes at closed doors. That was literally you the whole last book. Like, you couldn't even go to Starbucks with Jax without being like, oh, the barista's hitting on him, I hate it. So then it's becoming clear that Jax is hiding things, and I figured out what was happening like way before because it was blatantly obvious. But Cyrus, dumb wannabe himbo Cyrus, is like, something's going on and I am going to make Jax tell us. And so they get into a fist fight for no fucking reason. And then finally Jax admits that he was a collector. He knew Zenith. Oh my god. And she says, Jax's confession sliced through my being like the sharp blade of his knife. A pain sound escaped my mouth as I collapsed onto my knees, the wind knocked out of me. Literally collapses to her knees. The drama. And here's the thing, so Jax was actually so his parents were murdered because he was a seeker, and he was brought to Zenith and he was beaten the shit out of at 6 years old. And then Zenith was like, actually, I want you to be my adopted son, and then trained him to become a collector. And then he rose to the top and he was the collector at like, I don't know, like 13 or some shit. And of course that made the other collectors jealous, and Jax was sent to murder Alara and Cyrus because the midwife that delivered them said that they were, you know, special, and Zenith doesn't like anybody else being special, I guess. So he was sent to murder them, and then he was like, but I looked at you, Alara, and I couldn't do it. Great, okay. A baby looked at you. It was weird. Like, it was weird. And then her parents took pity on him, and then the collector showed up, murdered her parents, and jumped to Earth. And here's the thing, there was no reason to lie about any of that. It was just for drama. For no, like, there's no actual reason. He could have just said the truth from the get-go. From the get-go. And once again, that whole first book was an unnecessary prologue that was also full of lies for no reason. There's one part that says, you took world history in school, did you not? My brother nodded. Good, then you remember learning that hope is what starts revolution and hope is what ends wars. And I'm just thinking, like, yeah, on Earth, on a world you've never lived on, but like, Arunix is a really small planet, and it's just like, what? How did we get like all of this Earth information onto Arunix? It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Also, hope is not what ends wars. Firepower is usually what ends wars. Like, World War II was not ended with hope. Oh my god, this is just a fun rewriting of history, isn't it? Did hope end the Vietnam War? I don't think so. I don't think it did. Yikes. Hello. Is this me on a completely different day with completely different makeup and a completely different wig in a completely different room? Yes. It has been many days since my last confession of how bad this book is. So what had happened was the other room doesn't get good ventilation, and all of a sudden I felt like I was gonna pass out. So I stopped filming and then never came back. That was a week and a half ago. That was a week and a half ago. I wanted to try a thing I saw on TikTok, so that's what this is. I don't have any makeup skills. I just wanted to play around and have fun, and I did. And purple makes my eyes pop, so here we are. Where were we in this godforsaken book? I just got a message from somebody about the third one, and apparently there's like a graphic sexual assault scene, so. All right, so where were we? We were not very far in. We were about 30% in, and I know that sounds ridiculous because nothing has happened yet. In my notes I say nothing has happened yet, and that is the truth. Basically all that's happened is we've gone to this other planet where a bunch of stuff does not make sense, and they're doing the same shit they were doing on Earth. Jax is being cryptic, and Alara is being whiny, and her brother Cyrus is supposed to be the comic relief, but instead he's comic stress because all of his jokes make me tired, and they're not funny, so it's just stress. Oh, that's right. They go into town finally, and they meet Idalia, and initially Alara is really jealous, and then they leave, and Jax and Alara get into a argument. So it turns out that Jax was the leader of the collectors. At one time he was like a Zenith's adopted son that was very abused. This has been obvious to me from like the beginning of this book. Honestly, there was no reason to lie about this. He could have just said it in the last book. They could have had a conversation about, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So then there was this moment where Jax, as a 13-year-old, went to her house because Zenith told him, you have to go kill these twins because they're special, they were born during an eclipse. And he gets there and he's like, I moved to strike but froze because you looked right through me. I swear to God, I have seen this somewhere before. Wow. Why can't I remember? My feet skidded to a stop. How so? I was just a baby. This is so familiar. What am I thinking of? What am I thinking of? The Lunan faced me while Cyrus paused his casual pace. I'm not sure, but looking at you that night was like seeing my past, present, and future rolled into one giant slap in the face. This feeling, the one I mentioned under the bridge that afternoon, grabbed hold of me, and suddenly I realized who I had become. Oh.
It's like, right, your whole center shifts. Something's not working here. Your brother. Protector.
And then he says, your mother would be very proud of you, Alara. And she asks, what was her name? It has taken 1 1/3 books to ask what her own biological mother's name was. Okay, Chandra, he said, tucking a stray hair behind my ear. I flinched at the unexpected gesture, and like her daughter, she was a very beautiful woman. Ugh, gross. Cyrus is really mad. He runs off to be at the pond stream of magic water by himself, and Jax and Alara go off, and Jax is like, let's chat. And he like out of nowhere is like, you know what, I'm ready to like flip the script and do the exact opposite of everything I've been doing up to this point and tell you that I have feelings for you. And Alara's like, oh my god, me too. No shit. They go to this part of the peninsula because, again, this world is shaped like an arrowhead, and they are looking at pretty magic flowers, and they kiss. After he says, Idalia and I have a complicated relationship. I met her shortly after I left Zenith, after I jumped with you and Cyrus to Earth. So he says Idalia and him were very close. They had a relationship. They always circle back to each other. But that time has come to a close. Do you want to know why? Personally, no, but it's none of my business. Oh, but it is, he whispered. Oh, but it is. Ew. Ugh. Okay, is all I could say. Another woman has come into the picture, and words can't express the positive influence she's had on my life. The positive influence? Okay. And she says, she's thinking to herself, again, the quotations are gone, which, thank God. He's not talking about me, is he? This is so dumb. Being around this woman makes me want to be a better man. Over the past year, she's given me the opportunity to see who I need, know who I want in my life. I let out a small gasp. Overwhelmed by his honesty, Jax let go of my hands and then stepped behind me. And then they go and they see the pretty flowers. So then she like touches part of the flower and she like can't feel it. She's like, why can't I feel it or touch it? Mind blown that I failed the simple task. I'm mind blown that this whole book failed the simple task of being well written, but and he says, one of Arunix's unsolved mysteries. Yes, that is true. One of Arunix's many unsolved mysteries, like, why is it that you guys have 21st century Earth jargon as your way of speaking? How is it that you have no insects and have any crops at all? Why is your water magical healing powers? Why do you have stones that just like disappear when you rub them together? What? And why was any of this plot relevant? One of the many mysteries. Indeed. And then they kiss. My body felt weightless as he kissed me harder with each passing second. Ugh. I could do this for hours. I read this book for hours and it was painful. And she says, that was unexpected. Really? Because I feel like it's been 1 1/3 books just leading up to this and I am super disappointed. And he says, not for me. I've been wanting to do that for a while now. Okay. And then they're like, oh, I like you. And then like the conversation stops and he's like, oh, they're here, and the collectors arrive. So then it gets to the conversation between all of them where they're like, and Pollux is there, which is like the guy that Jax had sort of like a rivalry with in the collectors unit. And immediately upon arrival, Pollux is like a sexual predator, of course, because there's no nuance to villains. This is why I have such trouble with like indie YA. Actually, this series reminds me of a lot of problems that I had with another indie series I read. It's this one. I don't remember the name. It's like the Aslan something series. It's like really poorly plotted. Descriptions are awful. Like there was at one point where The love interest muscles were described as galloping. I'm like, how do muscles gallop? Anyway, I remember bad writing. I can remember bad writing. So the problem is that it completely takes you out of the story how poorly written it is, and it has good ideas. And then you get to the villain, because the villain is supposed to be this like point of, you know, tension for you, right? And the villain is just like always a sexual predator. And twice that happened in that series. And I'm like, why is it that every time something bad is happening, it's just women getting assaulted? I'm like, I want to see like the politicking and the scheming and the moral grayness, and it's just like men doing bad shit to women. It's like, oh, okay, damn it. And I can think of traditionally published books who did this, and like one that I absolutely despised last year, which was supposed to be a feminist fantasy, was The Women's War. And all it is men sexually assaulting women and fat phobia. So a lot like JM Buckwheat's series. So he just gets so Pollux and the rest of the guys show up and they're like, oh, you know, we're gonna take you, and they capture them, and Jax is like, oh, don't touch her, and you know, Alara's getting threatened with sexual assault by Pollux, and it's like, this is so cringy. And so Alara stabs one of the dudes in the leg, runs off to go find Cyrus, and Jax gets taken. Alara and Cyrus end up meeting up and they fight the people, and Alara ends up grabbing Cyrus's arm and then burning one of the dudes, Elio's mouth. Elio is his name. She ends up burning his face, so she leaves like a palm print, like a burned palm print on his face, which I kind of like the idea of. I just hate everything else that surrounded it. Because I just feel like this magic system does not make any sense. But how do you abandon the person you love? Love? You all just admitted that you even like each other and kissed one time. Whoa, chill. Okay, so Alara and Cyrus run away. Jax is taken off to Zenith's house thing, and Cyrus and Alara run off to Idalia's place, and who shows up? Of course, Pollux, the sexual predator, and he, you know, yells at Idalia and like makes a move and slaps her in the face, and of course, like the way that Idalia shows strength is by standing up to a sexual predator. It just makes me uncomfortable that like women are so badly portrayed in this series. Anywho, she says, Pollux and I have known each other for a long time, too long. I met him before Jax. For years he's asked me to pay him a visit. Her and Pollux both used the word visit, that word that apparently only Seekers used at the beginning of the book, but then suddenly Jennifer forgot her own rules in her own book, and now she said it repeatedly. Okay, Jen. And then she said, the women who visit Zenith and his collectors are known around Irunix as the peepees. Our noses scrunched with confusion. Pleasure payers, she clarified. Like prostitutes? My brother asked. No, not at all. Zenith and the collectors don't pay for their services. These poor girls pay them with their bodies in hopes of staying in their good graces. Does it work? What do you think? I think that this is weird, and there was no reason to call them peepees. The peepees usually come back to the villages covered in bruises and with busted lips. Some never come back at all. This is not surprising that sex work is portrayed like this, but it's like the women's war all over again. Kill me. Her and Idalia talk, and it says, a bond forged by an unspoken awareness locked its invisible chains around us that day. One only women could understand. Only women can understand friendship, apparently. She said, friends, and Idalia slapped her hand away before pulling her into a tight hug. Us girls have to stick together. I wish somebody had stuck with me through reading this book. Actually, I shouldn't lie. I do send screenshots to my friends, and they do get me through reading this absolute shite. Then Idalia says another weird thing about Irunix, which is that they don't have mirrors there. Is this plot relevant? Again, no. Her and Idalia continue to talk, and Idalia says, he went on and on about you returning to Irunix and how you weren't like other girls. Again, I just feel like I should have made a not like other girls bingo card for this series specifically. She literally just said it. So the only thing that Alara and Cyrus can do apparently at the time is hide. So that's what they do. They hide and they take on like disguises and work at Idalia's inn/bar, and then they're like trying to gather information via rumors that are going around. One of the rumors said they killed Jax the day Pollux paid me a visit. Again, visit. But apparently everybody believes now that Jax is dead. Alara wants to go and basically kill Zenith by herself. She's like, I'll do it, I'll go by myself. And it's like, that's clearly a suicide mission, but okay. And Idalia said, you don't even know where he lives, so take off the vigilante mask. I'm just like, Runics is so small, y'all know, and have vigilantes. It's just, this doesn't make any sense. So then Samson, who used to be part of Aaron, the original dictator, who used to be part of Aaron's brigade of collectors, starts talking to Cyrus and Alara, and says, rumors about Aaron started an exclusive group spread throughout the villages. Eager to feel a part of something bigger than myself, I joined and was named the first collector. So basically, Aaron started the military. And Aaron, the original dictator, not Zenith, Aaron wanted the Seekers to return to Earth so that they could learn more about the tools he wanted to use as weapons, protection to defend himself if an uprising occurred. When they failed, he took it personally, unaware of the Seekers' unspoken rule. Only those with a pure intention are permitted to jump. So the reason that Seekers can jump is only if their intentions are pure. Seekers are the people who can jump back and forth from Arunix to Earth. Why? Is it only Arunix to Earth? Are there other planets? We don't know. The world's not that detailed. And Samson said, I told you this story to help you understand why young, impressionable people, he cleared his throat, specifically the collectors, are so eager to follow the next big thing. When you use your shared Solon and Lunan traits to stand against them, they'll second guess their loyalty to Zenith. He's old news now that the twins have returned. Samson used his finger to count. You're younger, mysterious, and you have the knowledge of Earth under your belts. He thinks that people are going to turn against Zenith just because they're young, mysterious, know about Earth. Okay. Yes, that's typically why dictatorships fall. Young, mysterious people from a different place. This is so stupid. Then Alara's trying to work through figuring out how to use her power without experiencing a negative emotion and being in more control of it, which that would be a cool idea if Jennifer knew how to write. She said, anytime I experienced an undesirable emotion, I always justified it by placing the blame on others. The guilty party caused me suffering. I'm the victim. No, that's not how it works. There's no one to blame but myself. I'm responsible for the way I react to a situation. I have a choice. I can see the situation for what it is and move forward, or live my life stuck in reverse. I want to email that to my therapist so bad and just have a fucking field day. So they tell Samson, who is now training them with weapons, about Alara's little burning fingers power, and he's like, oh cool, oh you can't really, he's like, oh cool, for the time being let's keep this our little secret. I don't care if Idalia or Callisto, another friend, find out, but don't show the people in the villages. Not yet. Not until Zenith makes his move. The element of surprise is crucial in the art of combat. I mean, yeah, but she already burned Elio's face. Like, why would Elio... How is Elio gonna get away with not explaining why he has a burned handprint on his face? Like, this is Elio's a seeker. He's just not gonna tell Zenith. He's just not gonna tell him. Isn't Zenith gonna beat it out of him? Like, this is stupid. This was like so not planned out. It's hurting me. Cyrus says that he's glad that they're learning to get her trick, her hand burning fingers thing to work, and that he's glad that she's not experiencing those negative emotions anymore, which is just ridiculous. There's no such thing as negative emotions. Like, even if you're a Christian, it says that in your anger, do not sin. It does not say do not be angry. Like, I think that that's so dangerous. And my therapist, again, I want to email her because this is awful. Like, you don't tell people that emotions are negative. Emotions are normal, and how we choose to process through them is healthy or not healthy. That's it. I mean, would you call grief a negative emotion? No, grief is normal to the human experience. So is anger. Cyrus gets not drunk, but sort of poisoned almost, because he drinks something that he has an allergic reaction to. There's no alcohol on Arunix, another thing that's just like random to the planet. Anyway, he gets drunk and starts seeing a monkey that isn't there. Not drunk. He gets whatever he is and starts seeing a monkey that isn't there and names it Rico Twigs. This is all supposed to be really funny, and it was so it was so cringy. Again, she talks about negative emotions. The negative emotions I let go of, anger, guilt, grief, and resentment, all resurfaced in an instant because Jax died and she found out, and now she's re-experiencing all these it's like, those are not negative, those are normal. They actually bring up the fact that Elio has a handprint burned into his face, right? Some kid named Archer shows up and is part of the collectors, and he leaves and he's like helping them, and he says Zenith didn't want Elio didn't want Zenith knowing what you did to him that day. My brother was on watch near the main hall and overheard Elio telling Zenith that you threw a torch in his face. And she says, yeah, it was something like that. And he says, everyone knew he was lying, including Zenith. A torch doesn't leave a handprint burn on your face. And it says that Elio was punished, but okay, but like people have been murdered by Zenith for less. So why did Elio get it? These are like little details that are just not adding up that she's trying to work her way around, because her wild card is this power, but Zenith can't know about it yet. So then Archer tells them that Jax is actually not dead. So they're like, oh my gosh, we have to save him. And they run off to go do so. And at one point she actually says, Cyrus, we didn't think this through, like, at all. Yeah, from book 1. At one point, Alara says to herself, only my brother and I had the power to defeat Zenith, the power to free the people of Arunix. What power? How are you gonna free the people of Arunix because your fingers burn if you touch your brother? Like, I don't get it. Because you're special? This doesn't make any sense. So they get to Zenith's place, and Alara and Cyrus are just supposed to hide away from the building, and Archer is the one that goes in, gets Jax, and takes him out. He hands Jax to Cyrus, and he's like dying essentially, and Alara is like, oh my god, and then she sees that the collectors are coming for them, and so Archer basically sacrifices himself, and Alara just stands there and watches when she should be running. And Archer gets murdered, and then Alara starts running, but Pollux and Elio are right behind her. They get away, and they end up finding randomly, a cottage in the woods where a young guy and his dad are. And the guy just happens to be a doctor. And in fact, he just happens to be the doctor that birthed Cyrus and Alara. And he has a son named Orion. So Orion and, what is this guy's name? Aya? Orion and Aya take care of Jax. They do doctor shit. And there's a lot of like medical jargon that happens. And I'm like, none of this is necessary. I don't need to know any of this. I don't care. They have to like inject something into Jax's brain. It was wild. It was ridiculous. So then the doctor, Aya, Jax is, stable. He's sitting pretty, and he starts talking and telling Alara all about history, and this is where it gets fucking awful. So I don't even know how to go about this. So listen, there's no queer people in this book. There's no queer people in the last book. Until now, we are at about 90% in, and all of a sudden Aya starts talking about Aaron, the original dictator, and his boyfriend. The only queer people are the villains. And I'm trying to make a joke and I can't even think of one. It's just really disappointing. Like, I'm gonna leave some videos down below talking about how common this is and how typical stereotypes are used, and this is like a common theme in how media portrays queer people. Anyway, alright, let me read it to you. So, trigger warning for that. Taurus and Aaron were very close. Aya's eyes drifted to the past. Their romantic relationship blurred into their professional one, giving Taurus an advantageous position. Wow, I had no idea Aaron was homosexual? Does it matter? No, it just took me by surprise. I mean, it matters now because the only people you made queer were the villains. Aaron kept it a secret until he met Taurus. Of course he did. Aya was Taurus's apprentice. But then Aaron became obsessed with his work with the Seekers, trying to, get stuff from Earth. And so Taurus had adopted Zenith. And Taurus, this is actually kind of heartful. I'm really uncomfortable talking about this. I really thought I was okay. So basically what happened is that Taurus physically tortured 6-year-old Zenith because he was jealous and frustrated with his partner, Aaron. So Zenith, the current dictator, is evil because he was tortured by his queer dad. So that's it. They only adopted Zenith in the first place because he was special. He has both Solon and Lunan powers. It says he was so jealous of Aaron's relationship with Saros, so Taurus took all of his anger out on Zenith. He beat that poor child throughout the day. Taurus would have to take breaks only to come back with bloodied fists. I made the foolish mistake of voicing my opinion one day, and I made it worse for Zenith. Taurus locked the child in the attic and starved him for days, weeks at a time. The jealousy he harbored about Aaron's relationship with Saros only festered over the years. Before the Seeker came along, Taurus escorted Aaron to public events. They were attached at the hip, inseparable. Aaron had something something special, a seeker. Taurus thought if he had something equally special, a child born during a solar eclipse who looked different than the others, then maybe he could repair his broken relationship with Aaron. So Alara is told not to go see Jax because he's resting, he's recuperating, and she does anyway. And I want you to tell me if this also sounds familiar. See if you can place it. So he's sleeping. She goes up to him. I rested a hand on his bicep, careful to avoid the tender scars. His skin tightened. Throwing caution to the wind, I reached for the piece of hair that hung in Jax's face. His eyes shot open. Everything moved in slow motion when he grabbed my wrist. I whimpered at the pain that radiated down my forearm. Jax, I begged. Silence. He's going to break my wrist. Before I could scream for help, he dropped my hand, flew out of the bed, and reached for my neck. A second later, he slammed my body against the wall. I saw stars when the back of my head collided with the wooden panels. My lips moved, but no words came out. I choked and sputtered, my feet dangling off the ground. I can't place it. What is this from? Oh yeah. Peter. He says, you did this to me. And she said, Jax, you're not at Zenith's. And then she's like complaining and says, the man I love just tried to kill me with his bare hands. Again with the love. I don't understand. You guys talked about your feelings one time and kissed once and you love each other? Okay. And Cyrus gets annoyed with her and he's like, Alara, Jax needs somebody to confide in right now. And she's like, then he should talk to me. I'm the one he had the relationship with, Cyrus, not you. What relationship? You guys kissed one time. And then that scene from the from the other video is actually in this book. I think that's the one. He's throwing knives at the tree. Ding!
Hey, Jax. We need to talk. I know you can hear me.
Yeah, they didn't cut off my ears, but I have nothing to say to you.
They're fighting and he's like, just like that, you're willing to move on with Orion, even though he's being a huge asshole to her. They're both being super annoying. This was just stupid. This was a stupid conversation to just create drama where there didn't need to be any and to create a love triangle where there shouldn't be one. Oh yeah, Alara was sitting in the house and Jax walked in and it says he tossed his spare knives onto the coffee table. I distinctly remember him saying in the last book that there is no coffee in our runics, so how can there be a coffee table? So the book ends with her accepting that they're just not doing well. They're not gonna be together. That's it. That's the end. And she says, a comforting peace washed over me. Acceptance. I would always love the man with the piercing blue eyes, but moving forward meant letting him go. Jax might be the person I want in my life, but maybe my breath hitched when the Lunan beside me locked his eyes with mine. Orion is the person I need. Why do you need it? Why do you need a man? Oh my god. You need to learn how to plan your shit. So that's it. That's it. She and Orion were like flirting a little and she's like, maybe Orion's the person I need. And it's like, wait, that's it? That's literally the end of the book. That's the last line of the book. It's bad. So just real quick, I want to point out in the acknowledgements. First person she thanks, which I'm not making fun of Christianity. I'm just saying the way that she worded this is funny. God, first one to thank on my list. If that name offends you, then move on. Chill. Bunch of people thank God in their book acknowledgements. It's fine. Calm down. And then the next one I want to talk about, she thanked J. Crystal. Thank you for showing me the beauty behind the dark and twisted and giving me the courage to tap into my hidden potential. I don't want to say anything mean. I'm still mad about the queer villains, so I'm just gonna end it here. That was it. That was, what is this book called? Stillness of Time. I will read the third one. If y'all want me to, you can comment down below. These are honestly kind of painful, but I do love the ad revenue and I do love the little chats we have in the comment section about badly written books. So anywho, thanks for watching. Comment down below. See you next time. Bye.